Hi everybody, it's Kim from Patriot Garden. Today we're going to dig up some of the pepper plants and I'll show you how I get ready to overwinter them. Here's all you need to be able to overwinter your peppers. You need some clean pots that you don't mind bringing inside. Make sure they're washed. Make sure they're washed with a little antibacterial soap. You need some snips. My garden snips have lost their little spring, so I'm using my kitchen shears, which will work just fine. You're going to be using those to prune, and you're also going to be using those to snip the roots. And then some fresh potting mix. I'm just going to use the bag that I just opened up a little while ago just to make sure that it's nice and clean. Now you want this whole process to be super clean. You want to try to avoid any soil-based bad bacteria and bad fungi. So you don't want to take any of the soil that they've been growing in. You want to give them a nice clean medium in which to grow. You also want to make sure that you're not bringing in any pests from your garden. So we're just going to take our pepper plants out and we're going to get them ready to put in these pots in a nice clean way so that when I bring them in, my house will be safe, my plants will be safe until we put them back out probably next May. And now before we get started, to all of my comrades in arms dealing with these mandates and all of the stuff that's going on right now, I do hope that you are thinking about the future of this country, that you are thinking about your freedoms, and you are holding the line. Of course, I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel, share these videos to new gardeners, especially those that struggle to get those pepper plants germinated and outside. This is going to be a great way for them to get started earlier next year and get that pepper harvest a little bit earlier than starting with just germinating seeds, which I'll also do, but I also like to keep some of my favorite varieties. And don't forget, Patriot Garden is on Facebook and Patriot Garden is also on Instagram. My hoop house is slightly overgrown. This is what happens when work comes back, but you will notice that I am still harvesting tomatoes. Look at those beautiful tomatoes still on the vine. So I'm not going to touch these plants because I'll still be able to harvest. I'm getting lunch out of here and maybe a couple of dinners, and that'll be great. I was able to shake off most of the dirt. That's pretty good. And when I go to prune this pepper plant, I'm going to prune this pretty severely. I'm going to leave, obviously, the main stem. I'm going to leave the first fork. And I'm actually even going to leave this fork right here. I'm going to trim this down to right above the nodes. As I said before, it does look severe. But I'm going to go ahead and cut right above the nodes. And I'm going to trim off any leaves that are here. I'm going to trim off this leaf right here because I want to cut, and this leaf, yeah. And I want to cut this right here. I'm going to trim this leaf off right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and take care of this branch. I'm going to trim that leaf. I'm going to trim these two leaves, and I'm going to cut it right above this node right here. Now, this is what I'm going to save over winter. And I'll tell you two different things you can do once you've done this. The next step is we're going to wash out these roots and get them ready to plant. Okay, so I saved a California Wonder today and a jalapeno. This is a jalapeno. This is actually the second year for this jalapeno. The brown is where I cut it down last year, and the green is the new growth from this year. This plant did really, really well, gave me an unbelievable harvest of jalapeno peppers. The second one, oh, and I see one down here. So you want to make sure that you grab all the peppers that you can off the plant before you do this process, but I would have caught this little guy. I think I'm going to throw him in dinner. I also have some cayenne pepper plants in there, and I have some long green friars that I'll also be saving. So I'm going to prune this one very severely. Everyone gets pruned severely. It's kind of difficult to do the first time, but you'll get used to it. I'm going to take off all the leaves, and I'm going to leave the old growth stem, and I'm going to keep part of this stem and part of this Y stem right here. So I have a lot of places where new growth can grow. I might even keep this guy back here. So here we go. I'm going to just take these young ones off that I can just break off. Good. Now I'm going to use my snips. I want to keep this main branch, so I'm going to cut off this new growth right here. I'm going to keep this branch right here, so I'm going to cut off this stem right here. It's not the greatest pair of snips, but they'll do for now. And I want to cut off these leaves over here. I want to cut off these leaves right here. And this leaf right here. Now I've cleaned off the part that I want to keep. I'm going to cut the branches above the leaf node. So I think I'll cut this one right here. I think I'll cut this one at this leaf node. I will cut this one at this leaf node right here. And let me trim these bottom ones up a bit. And I'm going to cut this one right here at that leaf node. Let me clean that little piece up right there. All right, now I know that that looks totally severe, but it's going to be awesome, I promise. Now this really looks awful, but I want you to remember that peppers, first of all, are a perennial, and they are a tropical plant. So going dormant in the winter with just the bare necessities, and that's this, is something that they're used to doing. Plus we've had some pretty cold nights here, so what has happened is the plant has pushed the sugars into the roots where it can still stay alive. Those sugars will feed it through the winter. You can get your pepper plants to grow and fruit in the winter if you give it adequate light from another light source, such as a grow light. But I'm not really interested in that because I have enough to do. I'm just going to keep them in this dormant state, keep them alive, and then replant them next year. So now what I want to do is I want to clean off these roots. I want to get as much of the old dirt and the pests and any bacteria that's in that soil completely out of those roots. So I'm going to be using a very soft spray with my hose and cleaning them off. Okay, I think that looks really good. Remember, what we don't want to bring inside are any pests stuck in the soil, any bad bacteria or fungi or any beginnings of that. We want to get the soil that they've been sitting in. All some are completely out of the roots, so they're nice and clean. Now the next thing we want to do is trim those roots up just a little bit. As you can see, some of them are long. I'm not going to trim them up too much because my pot, I think, will take them all, but I'm going to give them just a little bit of a trim so I can fit this neatly in the pot. And then we're ready to go to fill our pot with some nice clean potting soil and water it down, and then I'll give you the last few tips before we sign off. Nothing in here for you. There's nothing in here for you. You're always looking for that snack. Okay, so we have a California Wonder ready to go dormant in my house, and we also have that jalapeno pepper. I'm going to make sure that I mark both. I'm going to clean those pots off so I'm not bringing all this dirt into my house. If you wanted them to sprout leaves and flowers and fruit, you could always put them under grow lights and experiment with that. As far as watering, you should probably only need to water them once a month or twice a month if they're in a really dry room. Just make sure that the soil never completely dries out. And then in the spring, you got a head start on your pepper plants. And if you really love peppers like I do, you want to get started right away. So there you go. I hope this was helpful for you, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget, hold the line. Be true to our freedoms, be true to our history, and take care of yourselves. And we'll see you next time. Happy gardening, everybody.